have a portrait of my grandmother giving the double middle finger, and then right under it, a portrait of my mom giving the double middle finger. And so those are ones where people are like, who is that? Is that your mom or whatever? I'm like, absolutely, that's my mom. And initially when I wanted to get the double middle finger of my grandma tattooed, I needed a reference photo, so I had her pose in like this kind of pose. And then afterwards, I didn't realize, but my grandma was like, what does this mean? She didn't know what the middle fingers was, and my mom was kind of upset at me. And then when I had my mom tattooed in the same pose, my mom's an acupuncturist, and she's like, oh, I don't want my patients to see this. I'm gonna put on sunglasses. So it's just my mom giving the double middle fingers, but in sunglasses. But now her clients know. My name is Bowen Goh. I'm 31 years of age. I own a couple bar clubs in Brooklyn. One of them is called Mood Ring. It's an astrology cocktail bar / club. One of them is called Heaven or Las Vegas. It's a karaoke bar / club. Grew up in Elmhurst, Queens. When I was about 12 or 13, we moved to Long Island. So big shift there. Going from a predominantly Asian neighborhood to way more of a white neighborhood was a bit of a culture shock to me. Getting bullied, moving from Queens to Long Island wasn't fun, but like anything, you kind of adjust to your new settings. My father left maybe like 20 some years ago, so kind of being raised by my grandma for most of my childhood, so super close kind of relationship with my mom and my grandma. When I was growing up, I would snoop on my brother's computer, and I clicked on this video that my brother had downloaded, and it was a babysitter porn actually. And she had a tattoo of a rose down the middle of her chest. So if anyone knows who that is, cool. But that was probably the first instance where I was like, whoa, that's a tattoo, and that seems to be there permanently. When I was 18, I moved out to LA, went to film school there. And I was really into kind of the blog house music scene there. There was these two DJs called Justice, that was their DJ name. And they had a bunch of like little tattoos. It was like the first instance where I saw someone with like multiple tattoos, but they're all small instead of larger scale pieces. And immediately I knew then that's exactly the kind of style that I wanted to go for. When I got my first tattoo, I was like, I don't want to get, someone's face on me that I know, because if they pass away, I'll see it all the time, and I'll, it might be painful to see that kind of image all the time. It's a photo that I have with me and my grandma, and she's kind of wearing a hat. So you can kind of see the bottom of her face, but her face is covered on purpose. I knew that my mom would be upset, so to counterbalance that, I got a second tattoo, which is, it's on my arm. It's a magnolia flower. My mom's name is Magnolia. So I went back and I showed my mom my first tattoo. I was like, oh, this is grandma. And she's like, oh my God, like, this is just so visible. It's near your hand. You're never gonna get a job. And then I showed her the magnolia flower for her. And then she's like, all right, that's cool. Like that's okay. You got one for me, you got one for grandma, but that's it. Like, don't get any more. And clearly I didn't follow those directions. Yeah. From the beginning, I knew I wanted small tattoos, and then I started getting them. And at the time, I wasn't sure what kind of field I would eventually end up in, like career-wise. So I made it a point to kind of get tattoos in places that I could hide very easily. And at the time, I was so focused on the meaning of all my tattoos. So my first, let's say 100 tattoos all have like, good meaning to them. There were things that are important to me, or things or moments in my life that I wanted to remember or memorialize for whatever reason. People come up to me now when I'm like working or walking down the street, and they're like, oh, like everything looks, so well planned out. There's no planning. I just kind of started getting tattoos, and I started filling the space up, and maybe it looks a little planned out, but essentially I was just looking for empty spaces to fill out. It's gotten to a point where I would just get tattoos of all the things that I wanted to, whether or not it was important. So, I have a Sriracha bottle tattooed on my leg. I have a White Claw tattooed on my leg. I have a tweet of someone talking about my bar on my leg. These are all things that I just felt for whatever reason was funny or entertaining to me at one point in time. I probably might not get a lot of these right now, but there's no regrets about all the tattoos that I have. I stopped counting on about 400. And now I would say somewhere between 500 and 600 is probably where I'm at. So most of my tattoos, I was just like, I know exactly what images I want. So I'd find an artist who had clean, gray, black, line work. But on top of that, someone who's honestly a super fast tattooer. So I can go in, I can get literally 10 to 15 tattoos in an hour, hour and a half. And I just did that for years. I started working with artists that, I just liked their flash work, and I started getting that kind of work. I would, schedule like appointments out 1 month, 2 months ahead of time. And then the day before, 2 days before, I would just have a list of like these different tattoos that I wanted. And, when tattoo artists might like post a photo of the tattoo they did on me, I just love looking at the comments because people love to talk shit. So it'd be like, oh, this guy looks like a Chipotle bag. That's fair. Oh, this guy looks like, the discount rack at 2008 Urban Outfitters. That's fine. But I just got a lot of things that for whatever reason I gravitated towards. I like the design, or it just reminded me of a specific thing. So it could have been, I met one of my best friends at a Burger King, so I have a Burger King logo. I almost died drinking promethazine and Sprite, so I got a Sprite logo. So all these different things that, might look silly by itself, but if I were to explain it, it does have some reason for it. The first one on my face, I have a little smiley face here, and then I got, later on, I got a daisy around it. Getting a face tattoo was kind of a shift in my life, and especially in how, I guess, strangers treat me. Once I got a few more, like for example, when I first got this barbed wire on my forehead, the reason I got it actually was I have a brother, he has a receding hairline, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a receding hairline, but I would love to know beforehand, so if I need to, pop a Rogaine or whatever. So I decided to get a forehead tattoo right there, so that if I notice space between the tattoo and my hairline, then I'll be like, okay, I gotta go to a doctor, or I gotta take some pills or something to fix my hair, or I'll fly to Turkey and get some hair plugs or something. When I got that tattoo right there, I would walk down the street. It was the first time in my life where I kind of noticed people like walking slightly to the other side of the sidewalk. And some people might not like that, but for me, I thought it was cool. Like I was like, oh, I'm making an impression on all these strangers on the street. Whether or not it's good, I kind of liked making that impression, I guess. In the career or the job that I have now, where I run 2 bars, it doesn't really matter whether or not my face is tattooed. And kind of along with that, it was kind of insurance for me, because when I was 25, I told myself that I don't ever want to work for another person for the rest of my life. And getting face tattoos and hand tattoos is kind of me forcing myself into that role. I've had, at this point, 3 kind of clashes with death in my life, and after each one, I'm just kind of like, I really don't care about what other people think about the way I look. I like the way I look. My mom thinks I'm handsome, so I just decided like I should go for it and look exactly how I wanted to look. I was talking to my grandma one day, years ago, like over 10 years ago, and she would walk from my mom's house to my aunt's house, which is maybe like a 45-minute walk for fun. And I was like, okay, you're walking 45 minutes each way every single day. Like, what do you think about on these walks? What she said to me was, when I'm walking, I count from 1 to 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. I just thought that was so beautiful. Like a person who had such a complicated life could simplify, her day into like taking 1 and 2 steps. And that was a really profound thing for her to say to me. And so I wanted to get like a big piece to kind of memorialize like who she is as a person. I have a portrait of my grandmother giving the double middle finger, and then right under it, a portrait of my mom giving the double middle finger. I would say, in the past, it's so important for me to think out each tattoo and where it went, and, very specifically what it meant. So, the earlier tattoos that I got, they all had such deep meaning to me. And now it's just kind of like I've gotten to a point where, I went past that phase, okay? I start getting tattoos where just like, I think, this reminds me of something that I'd like to remember, started getting those tattoos. Next thing was like, okay, these are kind of funny, so I'll get these tattooed. And then now I'm at a point where, okay, most of my body is covered. I want to get tattoos of images that I like. So now I will go to an artist and just like pull out images from their flash that I like that have no probably personal meaning to me. So that's kind of the stages from like putting everything meaning-wise into a tattoo into putting nothing meaning-wise into a tattoo. Even if I wouldn't get that tattoo right now that I got maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, at that point in time, for whatever reason, it meant something to me. So I don't have regrets about the tattoos that I have, even if I don't really like the way they look now. You know, at the end of the day, for me at this point, it's like, I really like the way that I look with my tattoos. You know, as I mentioned, my mom doesn't love my tattoos, but she's gotten over it. So now there's literally nothing holding me back, not my career, not my family, not my friends, definitely not me. So I just kind of have permission to go all out at this point.